Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 478. This is your guy to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, the father of a graduate, a very tired man. Yeah, a lot of fun work activities this week. So I'm tired.
Oh boy, Todd, it's not the House of the Dragon, it's the House of Tired.
Ass Dragon. Yeah.
Oh,
see, there you go.
What he said about comedy. You didn't hear it in the pre-roll, but Todd was going to do his countdown, and he said, "Ready," and then he rips this huge belch, and then he goes, 2.
It's all a lie. It's all a lie. I would never do anything like that.
I know.
It's rude.
It's very improper. But anyway, I am Charlie Carden. I'm here in Michigan. We're headed into a heat wave. Do you have a heat wave coming your way?
It's been in the 80s. Yeah, it's getting warmer.
Yeah. We got the 90s next week. But you know what? I'm good. This is my first time in the studio. If you're watching us on YouTube, that you can see my new mesh door protector that will stay in place until the cats find out it's there, and then it will be destroyed. But it's better than the big door wall thing I had that was just basically a wood bed mattress. Because it just this compartment doesn't have a door, and it's very hard. And if I have the cats in here, we'll have all kinds of shenanigans. But I digest. So it's good to be back. Sorry we're bringing you the show late this week, but life happens. But we still got a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's a summer of X. So Charlie and I are getting ourselves and you all prepared for Deadpool and Wolverine. So we are going to be watching a movie a week in the X-Men franchise to get us prepared. The good, the bad, and the origins.
Oh my God. I don't think, and we don't even really get into the Dark Phoenix and all that kind of stuff.
No, we're not doing those because they don't really tie into Wolverine that much.
Correct, yeah.
Only really Days of Future Past does. The rest don't. So I'm like, we'll just skip it because we've seen that movie a lot. We like it. So yeah,
absolutely correct. Very good. But something else that keeps it real and keeps it wonderful are the awesome folks on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon squad over on patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. These are the folks that get to enjoy ad-free podcasts and all of our fun additional content. And that could be you by visiting that website and trying this out for 7 days for free. But in the meantime, while you're pondering that notion, let me pay homage to the folks on our Friends with Benefits level. John Sedorf, the delightful Phoenix Sisters cosplay. That would be our friend Kelly Gentner and her partner Crayley. Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, and Matthew Keel. Over on the BFFs level, we have our superstars, the Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, and Missy Merchant. Thank you to all of you for what you do for us so that we get the chance to do more for you. And one more time, if you are listening to this and want to see what all the fuss is about, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, free 7-day trial. And as Arnie said, and that at the end of that first active Predator, when he chucked that big old knife into the bad guy, stick around.
And if you left, you'll be back.
Right, but you'll have a knife in you. So how long we be around for? I mean, let's be honest. It's a pretty serious injury. Oh, and it's a pretty serious injury to my eyes to look at this cover from the summer of 1991. Now, this is when Marvel had a potpourri monthly comic series called Marvel Comics Presents. This is issue 78.
Yes.
Where we got little snippets of vignettes. Now we do have kind of a cool, scary, hipster, edgy cover of Wolverine as Weapon X with that big mange of hair that also has like straw in it or something. And then he's got a big mouth. So he's kind of like Imogen Joe from Furiosa with that big old mask, isn't he?
And there's a reason why I picked this comic, because Marvel Comics Present actually created the story of Weapon X. This is
the first one.
It was an original story, ran 10 issues. This is not the first of that. It just happened to be one of those. So essentially it was telling a story in like 5 pages at a time, 6 pages, because it also had backup stories as well. This is where a lot of the X-Men, Wolverine's background in regards to Project X and with Weapon X actually was finally told in the 90s, which was pretty
I
cool.
love it.
It was a great idea.
And I love the rundown of some of the other stories because they really, and I assume this is front cover, back cover.
It was back cover, yes. Yep.
Yeah. So the back cover has, as if you're seeing it on YouTube, pictures of all of the characters that are featured. When a computer virus invades a system, Iron Man, big logo, runs amok. Selene, the Black Queen of the Hellfire Club. Now, Selene, the Black Queen reminds me of, was it Marceline, the Vampire Queen? I remember from my Lego Dimensions game.
From Adventures Time.
Yeah,
a little bit
exactly.
different. Yeah, Selene had the ability to basically suck the life out of people like a vampire.
Well, she was trying to suck the life out of the Incredible Hulk. That's the story there. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos work with Dracula to battle the greatest evil of World War II, Nazis.
Even worse than vampires, Nazis.
I guess, and you can't. And again, Nazis is the only one of the. It's bold-faced. It's the only other word of a couple words that are bold-faced, but it's not logo-sized bold-faced. So they're just trying to underscore.
It's not even Ratsies, as Nick Fury called them.
Or Bucky Ratsies, like the Maggie. I started reading the new in Amazing Spider-Man, the gang war this week, and the Magia is one of the factions.
Why couldn't they even just say Mafia? I mean, were they worried they might get outed and Stanley would get attacked?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. But anyway, good stuff. And somebody who may have ties to the Magia, though I don't want to come right out and say it because I might get my knees broken. That would be our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. Now, we know she's lived on the East Coast, but we know when she was younger that she was in the thick of it in New York City with those magiosas, mobsters?
Mafiosa?
She was a mobster.
Mobsters?
She was a mafiosa.
Lobsters?
But at any rate, these days, at 124 years young, she does take care of us down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine with all of the greatest scoops. So let's find out what's up. Let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Well, yes, Charlie kind of almost gave away your tail, but now I'm going to add to it the fact that your first name is Bonnie Webb, and you're part of Bonnie and Clyde. Oh, my goodness. They thought you died, but you snuck away. That movie, Try to Tell Your Tale. But you know what, Madam Webb? You've already been the root of trouble when it comes to men, and we salute you for all your hijinks. Yes.
Well, speaking of that movie and another star of that film, we've got a headline involving the current ingenue of Hollywood playing one of its most iconically sexy characters. Todd, take it away.
Yes. So I'm not sure who you're referring. Were you thinking of Jane Fonda?
Well, wasn't the character that Jane Fonda played in this film iconically sexy with the fur
Oh,
bikini?
yes. I thought you were referring to the person who played her. That was Faye Dunaway that played Bonnie and Clyde. Played Bonnie.
No.
Yes. Okay.
You failed to jump on back of my hoverboard for my segue.
Okay, yes, I fell off your segue. So yes, so there is a franchise called not even franchise, a movie from the 60s called Barbarella. It was a space sex romp with Jane Fonda, a really goofy, weird movie that as a young boy, I might have stayed up and tried to watch because it was very, very alluring. And because that movie kind of had a very glitchy kind of cult vibe, apparently they're looking to bring back Barbarella with Sydney Sweeney, but directed by Edgar Wright. So
they're trying to church it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, church it up. Yeah. She's going to be wearing those prairie dresses.
Like Sydney Sweeney in what was that movie? The Nun movie.
Oh, the Nun. Yes. Put her in a habit. That'll work.
Yeah. Oh yes, Sydney Sweeney too. Back in the Habit.
Yeah. So I mean, Jane Fonda kind of was I don't even know what a proper term was, but she was kind of a sex symbol.
Bombshell.
Yeah, bombshell.
Symbol.
sex bomb back in the day. And Sydney Sweeney is kind of as well, probably very equivalent in ages at the time. Very sexy people embracing their sexiness in this space romp that was just a goofy, silly type of space film. And one of the main guys was Duran Duran, which the name of the band came from.
I was going to say Duran Duran was in that movie. Hungry Like the Wolf.
No, but that's where their name came from. So kind of a big thing here.
I don't believe I've seen the film, which is crazy.
Oh, you should definitely see it, Charlie. Yeah.
Oh my God! Even in this photo with Sydney Sweeney and Edgar Wright, she very purposely does not have the two buttons of the shirt buttoned, and you can see her bra underneath the bottom of it. I'm like, that's a little
Charlie,
little
buttons are tricky, man. Buttons are tricky. I'm guessing she tried. They just stopped and she said, I give up. Buttons, you're my enemy.
She does not at all look like she tried. I think she's leaning too much into it. But at any rate, I look forward to talking about this because when it comes out, because I have not seen Barbarella.
Oh, you should watch it
somewhere. But yeah, Edgar Wright is fantastic. I'm not a fan of the Scott Pilgrim, but I loved Ant-Man, enjoyed Baby Driver. Last Night in Soho was absolutely fantastic. I should go back to that one. I liked it so much. Yeah, and then Sydney Sweeney. We're not really gonna talk much about Sydney Sweeney again. Things might get weird. Just two old white guys and a 22-year-old girl. Yeah. So yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Edgar Wright's for years. I mean, Shaun of the Dead, all of those movies are fantastic as well. The good news is Jane Goldman is going to be and Honey Ross are going to write the script. They did Kick-Ass and Kingsman: The Secret Service, which I liked both of those things. And apparently it's it won't be her first time on the big screen, of course, because she was in the 1968 movie. I don't know if they've ever tried to bring it back. It might have been they might have had a comic book. But this time, I mean, Sydney Sweeney had a really big hit with that Glenn Powell film. I mean, I didn't do well. The Nun movie didn't do well. So I'm guessing she's looking to do something a little bit more high vis and just a good time.
That's gonna slap. So it does say in here that there's no estimate on the time frame. Obviously, it's being written, and you have two actors who are, or you have an actor and a director who are very busy. I'm guessing we're gonna see this maybe in 26 or 27. So this is a ways down the road.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see if they can do something cool and original with it.
Yeah, that would be good stuff. Speaking of a lack of cool and a lack of original, and quite frankly, a lack of likely to ever exist, let's talk about Marvel's Blade. So the movie has had just this big rolling series of setbacks. Mahershala Ali was there. He was going to leave. We had directors come and go. We just lost another director. This is our second director that's walked away from the film. This is supposed to come out next year. And I'm going to tell you, and this is a very short little blurb. I find it entirely unbelievable that this film will come out in any kind of timely fashion. I just think it's I think it's a non-starter. I think it's dead.
How do you not get this right? I mean, you've got the perfect actor to play essentially a follow-up to Wesley Snipes. It's killing vampires. I mean, it was the original Marvel film that propelled them at the box office. I mean, it writes itself.
Do you remember a little film called Howard the Duck that was 10 years before it? That was the beginning of the MCU.
Oh, yes. It propelled that Marvel box office off a cliff.
By the way, another great reason to do the free 7-day trial at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite is to listen to my wife April and I break down 1986's Howard the Duck, because we had a good time. You can catch that on our Bad Trip to the Movies with the Cardins segment. Howard the Duck. Yeah. But anyway, I digress.
So the bad part about this is the further this gets away from filming and getting a new writer on or a new director, I'm not sure if the script is done, but ultimately the director, when he comes on, he's probably going to look at the script and agree or disagree with the direction. So that will take more time. And Mahershala Ali,
or he'll quit.
Oh, yeah, or quit. And then he's supposedly going to be cast, or he has been cast, to star in the next Jurassic World movie with Scarlett Johansson. So his schedule is going to get even worse.
So that's a year gone by. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make my Charlie's prediction here is that we will find out in the wake of this that this is just going away. I feel like Marvel needs to move on. They've got other higher profile projects like another Avengers film and Fantastic Four, which is in production. It's going to start production here in a few weeks. Oh, if it hasn't already. That I just feel like this is going to kind of bleed away into nothing, or posit, get ready for my segue, could bleed into excuse me, it's the story after next.
No, let's just go to that one. I was just thinking about that, Charlie.
Okay.
That does take us to the next story because it makes sense.
It absolutely does. Yeah. The writer of the film Logan, Michael Green, rumored to be attached to pen Marvel's Midnight Suns feature film. And as there's a photo that kicks us off here. Marvel Suns, at least in this incarnation, I may miss some of these characters, would include Punisher, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, Damian Hellstrom, I'm thinking.
The son of Satan, yeah.
Yeah, Ghost Rider, and of course, Blade. So here's Charlie's hot take number one, with the caveat of hot take number two. Blade just becomes this movie, and he's a part of that. And then maybe if this is successful, then we get a Blade movie, because there might be a little bit of legs to it. But yeah, this is a cool comic. Midnight Suns rolled around in the 90s. I never really followed it myself, but it's kind of a dark like Avengers. Like it's in so much that it's a team, but they're ragtag groups. That's a little bit more like the Defenders, I suppose. The Defenders meaning the classic 70s model, which also included Doctor Strange. It was like the Hulk and the Silver Surfer, and I think Hercules and Valkyrie were part of it at different times. But it was kind of a team that wasn't a team. They just got together and did something, and they all just went their separate ways. Wasn't organized like the Avengers is.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Because the original Midnight Suns, I believe it was Ghost Rider. It was Ghost Rider. I'm trying to remember who it was. If I look it up, it was Ghost Rider, Blade, Wolverine sometimes was involved in it, Doctor Strange, Brother Voodoo. So it was essentially, it was a supernatural squad. And I mean, to your point, if we can't kick it off with Blade, who everybody is a touchstone with Blade, at least, I would say that he would be the entry into it. It might be hard to do like full on, here's 85 supernatural characters, but maybe Doctor Strange is the entry point instead.
Maybe think about the fact that, when Tom Holland took over the Spider-Man role in Marvel Studios, so he was that iteration of Spider-Man. He came on as a supporting character in Civil War. We didn't have to do the big origin story. He didn't have to have a big this and that. He did that. And it was just understood that people knew who he was, who the character was, because there'd been 2 franchises with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of the most popular comic characters in the world. It was no big deal to introduce him. So the Blade films, as you said, even from the 90s, everybody knows the deal. Blade could show up in this, have a big whatever. We've already got Moon Knight established. We've got Strange established.
We've got the Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing.
Right, yeah. Yep. So we've got a Punisher if they're looking to bring John Bernthal back in, but who's to say? So I don't think anything is going to be lost dramatically if this takes place of that Blade film. And then based on the success of this may be a total failure. And then they say, well, I don't really think that Blade's going to make a go of it. So yeah, that's my take, is that this leapfrogs ahead of that. Because they just can't, there's some kind of, Brother Voodoo put a voodoo on the Blade film. It's just not going to get done.
Yeah.
It's just not going to get done.
I think it would make a lot of sense. Yeah, maybe revisit Blade when it makes sense, or when they finally figure out what they want. But I would say have Doctor Strange be the linchpin then, because people know him. Exactly. He's putting together a team that basically battles the supernatural.
Right, exactly. Which has just always been have there been two Doctor Strange films, or 3? They've been
two. Just the first, and then the
right.
Mouths of Madness, or the Multiverse of Madness. Yes.
Would you call it the Malls of Madness?
The Mouths of Madness. Yeah. So
my gosh,
I think there's a way to still get after a Midnight Suns or the dark side of Marvel. It's just going to be harder to do if they can't even kick off one character.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of somebody who does great standalone films about characters, but we're talking about another team, Jordan Peele, who gave us Nope, he gave us Get Out, and what was the third one?
Us?
Us.
You already say that?
Yes. No, I did
Okay.
not. So yes, you nailed
Okay.
it. It reportedly met with Marvel Studios to direct the X-Men film, their X-Men film. Can you even imagine Jordan Peele? And Jordan Peele is, what a crazy story. I mean, 15 years ago, less than 15 years ago, he was part of a sketch comedy duo with Keegan-Michael Key, who's from Detroit, my hometown, and had a great fun show on Comedy Central. And then they went their separate ways. You know, Keegan-Michael Key continues to act, though he's getting steady work, but he's not blowing things away. And Jordan Peele became a director.
Did you know Jordan Peele, his first big thing, he was part of the cast of Mad TV on 9th season. That's where he started. And that's how he met Keegan-Michael Key.
Wow.
Mad
I did
TV.
not know that.
Who knew?
Yeah. But I enjoyed Mad TV very much. I am not at all familiar with the 9th season, which would have been in probably the mid-aughts, because I think the show came out in 1995. So that's interesting.
In 2003.
But anyway,
Yeah,
there you go. So anyway, Jordan Peele is, as it said, one of the most in-demand directors in the business right now. But he sat down, according to Jeff Snyder on the Hot Mic podcast, he met with Marvel about directing a project. And another report said that project was the X-Men. Nothing is confirmed. This meeting is said to have taken place a long time ago, and nothing really came of it. So this whole blurb could be what we call a nothing burger. But then again, it is fun to think about the concept, right? Because that's a film that is far enough on the horizon that it's not really been slated, I don't think. It's not saying, oh, coming in 2030. It's the X-Men. Has it been?
No, we assume it's coming after Fantastic Four. That's all we know.
Gotcha. Very good. So that's
what we are assuming. We can't guess. Yeah.
We can't do assuming. So that would be iconic. I mean, his films, those three films, I think we watched them back to back last summer. Because did Nope come out last summer, or was that summer before? That was last summer.
God, I will look it up.
So we had rewatched those movies.
Nope was 2022, so it's actually been 2 years.
So something sparked our interest in finding them, and they're all out on streamings. But my God, if you've not seen Jordan Peele's films, we talked about them all the way through on this show. Definitely go check them out.
But my highlight definitely is the Gremlins 2 pitch meeting from Key and Peele.
Oh,
that is my favorite sketch. Absolutely. That's the pinnacle of his career, in my opinion.
I do. Well, I also love the spoof of the Crystal Light Dancers, which is one of my favorite. I haven't saved on one. I have that, which was hosted by Alan.
Is that the dancing championship?
Yeah.
Where the guy is not told that his family's dying or something.
Exactly. No, I have the original of that saved in one of my playlists on YouTube. And I'll go back to it from time to time. Yeah, very good stuff. But anyway, him directing an X-Men film would be amazing. But it is, with most things, speculation at this point. But what's not speculation is the fact that I've never seen this next thing, which is getting a series, I guess.
You haven't seen Sausage Party, Charlie?
I have. No, because I feel like when it came out, which was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was
2016.
Like, it sounds too gross to go see it. But yeah, it was. And it was funny. This was a Red Band trailer for a return of this, which is just gross. Like, it's a live food that does gross stuff and has sex, and I mean, Todd, you've seen it. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So Sausage Party is essentially sentient food in a CGI animated film that looks like it would be from like DreamWorks or something like that, kiddie, but they decided to go R-rated. Seth Rogen, Kristen Wiig, Michael Cera, David Krumholtz, Edward Norton, Will Forte, Sam Richardson. A great cast, but it is over the top. Just it's an adult sex romp comedy. It is.
Oh my God.
If everything you heard came out of my mouth is like, I'm out, yes, you should be out. Yeah. But if you're like, let's have fun with it and let's just go around with the ride, it was a goofy, dumb film that I did laugh at.
Right.
We are getting a basically a sequel series, 8 episodes.
8-part series. That's just wild.
Yeah, where the food essentially decides to take over and run the planet, which is so weird. And then they realize, oh, nothing can stop us, and it rains, and essentially the bread gets dissolved in the rain because they've never been outside. They've only stayed inside the grocery store. So then they need someone to lead them because the brain trust was a piece of chewed gum, died. And then they have no one to show them the way, so they decide to find a human to help them and essentially go a Ratatouille, but not with the head, but the butt, is all I'll say.
Oh, Todd, one question for you. The company you work for, how do they feel about this film?
Well, apparently there's no cereal or other of my brands in this, so thank God. There hasn't been any food mascots as I've seen so far, so there you go.
That would be bad. My morbid curiosity is probably going to lead me to watch this. I did not look it up on Just Watch, but I would assume the original film is probably also on Prime.
It's got to be on Prime. Why would they put like, that movie we can't show you on our website, but here's a sequel to it.
Right. You're not going to find it on Disney Plus. That's all I'm going to say.
Maybe now on Hulu.
oh my God. If it was on Hulu, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I told you we're watching 24, which is a series I've
on Disney Plus.
On Disney Plus. Yeah, it's delightful.
Do they have to save Mickey Mouse in 24 hours?
And before that, we watched The Handmaid's Tale. So talk about two shows that should really not be on Disney Plus.
Ted Cruz would not approve.
But anyway, this is out on July 11, and probably to spare the suspense, it's it's probably day and date. It's all out at once. You can binge it.
Oh, this is so bizarre. The movie is only on. You can rent the movie on Apple TV. Or you can watch it on Crunchyroll? This is so dumb. Thanks, Just Watch.
Anyway, maybe you can also find it at the library. I have maybe on July 1 it'll be on.
Maybe it'll come over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. All right, well, hey, that takes us out of a very weird news segment. But it is time for me to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. We are due down in Scugtown, Nastyville. The Geek Easy awaits, but we get into that car. We turn on Sirius XM. That's right, it's a 90s at 9 with downtown Julie Brown. Wubba, wubba, wubba. But first, this ad.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. And I've been super busy, so when I came home from my event tonight, I quickly watched Acolyte season 1, episode 3.
Something to talk about. Gotcha. Yeah, we watched it last night, obviously, when it came on. We're on episode 3 of 8. And this was the big... Todd, are we going spoilers, no spoilers?
Oh, yeah, let's go. We'll go. Okay, folks, we're going to go spoilers. Once you've watched it, come back in for Charlie's stuff, which he may spoil too. I don't know.
It could happen.
Okay.
And anyway, you'll hear a very detailed breakdown of both episode 3 and episode 4 next week on Holocron with myself and Mark and Peter, who is my co-host over on Club 47, is going to be joining us for that.
But check in for about like 6 minutes, and then we'll get into Charlie's stuff. Hopefully spoiler free as well. Okay, so spoilers start now. So Acolyte episode 3 was all flashback to Osha and May. They're raised by now these are witches, but they're not tied to the witches.
The Dathomir, that's what you're thinking of. These seem to be purely a different stripe of dark
Force users, right?
Dark Force practitioners. Yeah. The word Sith is not used because I think that more comes into play. This was 16 years prior. That does seem to come more into play with what we're seeing. The big reveal we had at the end of episode 1, which was the far in the distance dark clad guy who ignited a red lightsaber and turned to the side, and he's got the big Joker mask. That's our Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And May, grown May, would appear to be his associate or his apprentice. In this,
so Jedis have Padawans. Siths have nothing. Do they not call them something?
It's just an apprentice. My apprentice. Yeah, apprentice. Yep. So Vader is Palpatine's apprentice. Maul was Palpatine's apprentice. Count Dooku was also. Yeah, so he had a habit of losing them and killing them. But yeah, so in the flashback of this, we're seeing this witch colony. We see May and Osha as, younger children. They're maybe 10 or, they're maybe 10 or so. I don't know, because it's a 16-year age difference. So I figure they're maybe around 25 in the regular series. So that seems to fit.
Yeah, so about 10 years old. Yeah, it makes sense.
But they're already Force practitioners of some regard, because you see them practicing it with like the butterfly that's flying around. They're stopping it and starting it. And they're at this kind of gather. It's like a witch bar mitzvah. That's happening because they're supposed to.
The bar mitzvah is happening, the awakening or the arisen, whatever they called it.
Whatever it is. And May is clearly all for it, where Osha has some reservations. And this is the exact time that our 4 Jedi show up. So the 4 Jedi that have been targeted in the present time because of the tragedy that happened 16 years prior, which is happening right now.
Yeah, and they mentioned something. So essentially, they know the Jedi are there. So they're trying to hide the girls, and
so back on Coruscant, they have the Jedi Cerebro, where they can sense Jedi in various places.
Yeah. So essentially, though, it's mentioned that these witches, it's basically they're trying to find their own place, and apparently they're not allowed to have children. It sounds like, because they say there's no children here because they're trying to hide them, or it's basically against the law to use the Force to create life, and that's essentially
which is as I said, it's a Sith thing. We do know from the Squid Lake, the opera that Anakin and Palpatine sit in episode 3, where Palpatine explains that the Sith have the power to create
the sad
life.
Tale of Darth Plagueis. Have you ever heard of it?
He was like, that's a weird way to start a conversation. But subsequently, we did see in a canonical comic, since Marvel took over the property in 2015, that Palpatine did visit Tatooine, and he put a baby in there in Shmi Skywalker, and so he is in essence he's Anakin's father for that reason.
What a creep!
So
what a weirdo.
So it's weird. It's pointed out in this that we have, and I'm gonna draw a blank on names. We have the light skinned witch and the dark skinned witch. The dark skinned
horny witch and the black witch.
Horny meaning with actual horns, not just horny.
Well, maybe
they're a couple, and it does sound like the dark skinned witch used the Sith power to put the twins into the light skinned witch, because she does say, "Well, I carried them." So yes, that was, and because there's no men around, how else could it have happened? So it was the Immaculate Conception, Sith power. Boom, you get you're having a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, you're having my baby.
Yeah, it's kind of like the two things you can't do is create life and then basically bring people back from the death. Those are kind of like the two things you're not supposed to do with any type of magic ability or whatever, because you're basically playing God then. Yeah, so I mean, this episode did do a good job of kind of filling in a lot of the whys, which is great, which is what I'm like, I don't want this drawn out to find wait till episode 7 to say what happened, then we have one episode for this out. Now, essentially, we do have the tragedy that occurs, which is the fire, but
which May starts. She does it in a way because she tries to imprison Osha to punish Osha for saying, I want to go back with the Jedi. I want to go to Coruscant. I want to go to the temple. I want to be a Jedi. And May is just not having it. She's like, we're supposed to be together. That's our deal. We're supposed to be witch sisters, and you've ruined everything. So now you got to die. Yeah. Very measured response.
So now the only thing I don't know if we're getting the full story on is obviously May is traumatized and then wants to seek revenge on the Jedi that took her sister.
Right.
But we saw all of the dead witches. Now, did the fire really happen that fast to take down the whole facility?
The question all those people? Is, did the Jedi kill them?
Well, that's why I'm wondering, because I think there may be maybe this is the red herring, because maybe there was maybe May came out and caused a distraction, and then essentially we got kind of maybe a misunderstanding, and then it was, basically
just like Three's Company.
Or just like when the Avengers meet and beat the shit out of each other. Maybe it was like that, except it ended far worse.
Sure.
But considering how powerful the mother was, that could basically, I would see it's very hard. Like they said, there's only 4 Jedi, we can take them out. I'm like, so I don't know. I'm trying to figure where this all landed, but that's kind of where we're left. Yeah.
I'm just getting the feeling that these 4 Jedi, for some reason, said, nope, you all got to die. And that's why Master, levitating
Master bad hairline
Master bad hairline beard, that's why he decided that it was okay to commit suicide by drinking that poison.
So there's something more, but I'm thinking it's not black and white where it's like, oh, the Jedi are the bad and we defend her. We think it was probably a misunderstanding, and we had May essentially saying, I'm going to kill you. So May's a little bit off, and maybe misremembering as well. And we're getting this from the viewpoint of little children. So I'm curious to see where this goes. We still haven't met the big bad and how he finds her. Maybe we'll get that next episode, the big bad rescuing her. But because there's got to be more to it than just finding May at this point, right? Because that's really where we left off. We're in search of May.
Right, exactly correct. So we will find out again. This airs every Tuesday over on Disney Plus. So I would go and have a peek because I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the mystery, and hopefully it'll be something kind of squirrely whirly.
I think the first episode was I'm glad it feels like it corrected itself, because I was like I said, I have thoughts of the first episode, but after the first episode, when we got the second and third, I'm like, I feel like it's a better story. So I'm much happier. It's layered.
I agree. It's an onion. It's the Star Wars onion. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I read a couple of things. I might save one of them for next week because I just started it. But I did get the first 2 IDW or Image original, like present day, not continuation of the original series. G.I. Joe miniseries have ended. That was Duke, and that was Cobra Commander. Both very different, both super cool. Now we're getting our second 2, Scarlett and Destro. And Scarlett #1 came out this past week. I read it while I was out of town, and I loved it. Scarlett is basically it's the Black Widow. It's the Black Widow. It's like I mean, you can see Scarlett Johansson's face in this character. So she's a killer by contract. She works for the government. You see her executing this black op, in somewhere in Asia, rescuing somebody. But she's supposed to observe, but she decides to engage. And so she's getting screamed at by some general. And then she gets approached to go on a new job, and her best friend in the world.
Did you say a nude job?
I don't know. That could be in the second issue. But she's has to infiltrate the Ashikage clan, the famous ninja clan that Snake Eyes is a part of, and Jinx, who is the character that she runs up against, who's really her best friend in real life. But Jinx was a character from the G.I. Joe animated film, if you remember correctly. It was one of the in the 1987 series. It was a little bit later on in the G.I. Joe main run of releases.
Oh, okay.
But she was also a member. She was cousin to Storm Shadow, who we see. Excuse me for the spoiler.
Okay, I was thinking of Zorana, the Lady Dreadnought.
No, the Zorana and Xandar were Zartan's siblings, and the other.
Yeah, I don't remember Xandar. I have to look him up.
He was cool. They basically they look like they were basically, it was David Bowie, and if David Bowie was a chick, that was Zartan's sibling.
I remember Zoran, I just don't remember Xandar. Yeah, I don't remember Xandar.
No, that's it. Well, he didn't have much of a role, but Zorana, it's funny, I'm looking at her, she's on my shelf because she's one of the releases that has have been put out. But this was a great start. I'm digging this. I'm really looking forward to Destro, which I know is just going to be out in a couple of weeks. But and I've mentioned it before, apologies to Larry Hama, because I love your work and I'm very happy to be funding the Kickstarter that's going on right now, which will reproduce all of Marvel's original stuff. But his current run just lost me because it got a little too ridiculous. And this new stuff is more grounded, even though the Duke was very Duke was Jack Bauer, and it seemed very the same. And the Cobra Commander one was super ridiculous, and it was about Cobra La and Nemesis Enforcer and how they were fighting the Dreadnoks, And then Scarlett just seems very straight up. She's the Black Widow. It's totally awesome. So I'm totally down for this. Destro will probably very much be I don't know. We'll see when we get there. But I'm really digging it. Like I said, these are the only comics that I'm currently following monthly. I pay for them and they show up on my tablet and then I read them. So I'm really digging on that. So Todd, you said you read Duke. Have you read Cobra Commander? Have you
actually, I haven't read it. I own them. I haven't read either of them. So I am going, because this is what we're going to do. I am going to read Duke, and we'll do a spinner-rack of it.
Yes!
So
excellent.
Stay tuned. We're going to do it. I'm going to set it up, Charlie. So I set up an episode probably sometime in July.
Okay, well, I will read it again because I look forward to it.
Well, you don't have to. You can just talk about it. But if you want to, you can do it. It's all you.
But anyway, I will talk very briefly about the finale of Star Trek Discovery. If you listened to our show earlier this week, Code 47, ding, ding, ding. Peter and Aaron, who are my regular co-hosts, we talked about it. It was a really long episode because we also talked about the end of the series. I went on record. I've been lucky that I've been able to see these via screener, so I've seen several early. And early on, I was very excited in this season about the direction they were going. I thought it was a fresh take, but the show had also been off for a long time, and it's not one that I've gone back and revisited because, frankly, it's just not my favorite. I'm a very traditionalist. I do very much enjoy the '90s Star Trek, but I felt that the storytelling was a little sharper, and this was a little more loosey goosey. Todd, I know that you're a fan. You've watched the first 3 or 4.
I'd have to remember. I think I watched through the first 4, and I kind of think where I've gotten from it. You finished it, obviously, so you can probably gauge my thoughts on this. I felt like a lot of the other cast has gotten short shrift as it's been focused on some of my not so favorite characters, or the characters that aren't even involved on the actual Discovery crew, which was a disappointing. I wanted more of the Discovery crew versus the rest, I guess is the best way to put it.
And the cast of thousands.
Yeah.
And that was something because when we did a wrap up, my very specific complaint was, because I asked both of the guys, I said, give me a favorite moment or episode, give me a least favorite moment or an episode, and then give me, how you think it contributes to the legacy of the series overall. And my least favorite was, I said, well, it's not an episode, but it's a leitmotif, and it's their, unceasing need to shove background characters into the foreground, and it just never takes off. I remembered a very specific instance where one character sat down to talk about another character and how great and exciting they were, and you just went, what? and he's just, it's just, there was a lot of that. But anyway,
everybody's got a fan, Charlie. Everybody's got a fan.
Yeah, everybody's got a fan. But anyway, this episode, and again, we actually talked about this episode in the penultimate episode 9, employed the thing about the season, which has tilted me in the other direction, is that everything is just too convenient. And I was surprised that Aaron brought out the expression Mary Sue when talking about, when talking about Michael Burnham, because she is great at everything. She's got all the answers. She's got total recall. But the same thing came up with like the character of Adira, who I can't stand, was also like, I have this thing or that thing memorized, so I can help you on this mission. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just don't. So there was a lot of convenient twists and turns, and the MacGuffin, which they have been searching for the entire season, Todd, I'm sure you're familiar, was it spun off of an episode of TNG. It had to do with these progenitors that seeded life throughout the galaxy. The MacGuffin at the end is very disappointing. I'm sorry. It's a huge, huge, huge letdown.
That's
the one thing that I will say is that it was and I got this information actually as it happened on the Star Trek cruise back in early 2023. Doug Jones is a guest. He had a panel that day. He said, I had to be on a 7 a.m. Zoom today where they told us our show was canceled. So what happened when that happened is they ended up back in Toronto. They did some pickup work. They tacked an ending on it. And there are two sequences, which either one or both of them were kind of I think it's probably really the end. But the end ends up paying an homage to something earlier in the series that is pretty inside baseball, that it really doesn't work. So I would say I ended up giving this finale a 5 out of 10. I mean, I was really disappointed, and I rated it second from the bottom of all of the Star Trek finales. The worst being the end of Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Yeah,
which was a clip show.
Yeah,
this was an annoying. While Star Trek Enterprise did bring the Star Trek back to TV after a 12-year gulf. It gave us this great birth of different and wide variety, 2 different animated shows, 3 different other live action programs coming out. But as a show in general, the only time I'll go back and revisit is when we have a random episode that comes up that comes out of the generator that kind of forces me to watch the Discovery episode. I just don't like the series. I'm sorry to say. But it gave us Strange New Worlds too, which is one of the best.
I think it did a good job of bringing back Star Trek, and so we'll appreciate that. I think it was one of those things that I'm like, I didn't want to like the show, and I did grow to love it. And I think the show had so many good entries and developed so many good characters, and I think it fell on a lot of tropes and also got way too emotional about itself.
Right.
Everything was like Burnham. Every episode she would cry about something, or
she stopped crying as much. But it's just, like I said, the season, I thought, wow, cool concept, things some great stuff with, but every one of the MacGuffins when they go to find another crew, it was so implausible, and there's just no way that it made even in the tropiest of the troposphere, it just nothing worked. It just nothing. I was gravely disappointed. But Todd and listeners, whether you
I'll watch. I'll finish it. I will finish it.
Absolutely. And I would be interested.
Yeah.
I'm sure some weeks down the road, you'll come back and we'll talk about it again.
Sure.
I'm open to talk about it with you, but yeah, that's kind of where we landed with that. So hopefully that's spoiler free enough. Sorry.
We went longer than 6 minutes, but that's okay.
Sorry.
At least, I think we're good to go. So hopefully folks, I don't think this is spoilers, Charlie. I think you nailed it in regard to,
hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. And again, if you listen to us over on Code, it was obviously with the understanding that we were spoiler casting, because that's what we always do. We discuss the episodes. We don't really hold a lot back. So, but again, you know what? Hit us up on our Discord or hit us up on the mailbag, which is secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Let us know if this really spoke to you. Let us know if you agree with us. Let us know if we're somewhere in the middle. Let us know if you think Todd shouldn't bother to watch it, that it's that bad. I say give it a stab. I would love to have an opposing viewpoint. But definitely hit us up on socials and let us know. So, all right, with that, we come to the end of the Geek Easy. Todd, we've got to get out of here. Skipping out on the check yet again, but I got to get out that Air Qantas app, get that flight to the land down under. Hologram Tina and the mutants are waiting for us to kick off the Summer of X with the Y2Ks, the X-Men.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this is week 1 of the Summer of X. We are going through, I would say, most of the X-Men films.
Many of the X-Men films.
Most of them, yeah. Most is a rare term that doesn't mean anything specific. Of the X-Men films as we get into the launch of Deadpool Wolverine at the end of July. And we're just starting where it all began. We're not going back to Generation X, the Fox movie. We're going to start with the actual official launch of the X-Men. This launched in July 14th, 2000. The byline.
This was 3 weeks after my son was born. I don't even know how is my wife at the time, Alicia. I don't even know how we got to go to the movies. Yeah, my grandmother always watched Noah. We were just like, boop, there you go. She was very happy to do it. So that's probably what happened with us going to see this movie.
I don't know if I actually saw it with anybody or I saw it by myself because I was in the Air Force at the time. And there weren't a lot of geeks in the Air Force at the time. Maybe I went with a buddy of mine, but I saw it. It got a movie poster. I was like, I couldn't believe this was actually happening.
It was wild. It was really wild to see it. But yes, here, since I'm blabbing, I'll read the description. Here's the tagline. In a world where mutants, evolved superpowered humans, exist and are discriminated against, two groups form for an inevitable clash, the supremacist Brotherhood, but not of evil mutants. He just calls them the Brotherhood of Mutants, and the pacifist X-Men. On, as we said, July 14th of 2000, directed by Bryan Singer, screenplay by David Hayter, and story by Tom DeSanto and Bryan Singer, based upon, of course, the X-Men by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, production by Lauren Schuler Donner and Ralph Winter. The Ralph Winter name sounds familiar. I know that name.
Yeah, he's the Winter Soldier.
Of course he is. And I love these numbers. Budget of $75 million, and boy, they spent every penny.
Yeah.
But a box office of nearly $300 million. I assume that's domestic. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And that's why there have been what now, like 10 X-Men films. Yeah, it's totally crazy.
And just to give anyone context of like Marvel getting a movie on the screen, before this, the first Marvel movie was Howard the Duck in 1986.
Right.
Nothing again for 12 years until we got Blade out of the blue with New Line Cinema.
And it was successful. Yeah.
And Blade really did really well. Made, I don't know how much it made, but it was very successful. It was a good movie. It was kind of the proof of concept that you could really go forward with a comic book film.
Right.
And then they went balls to the wall with X-Men, a whole, this is the first superhero team film even.
Right.
Like, how are we going to introduce a comic that had been around for 30 years, so many characters, so much legacy? Right. How do you make it work? Well, Bryan Singer, you know what? We're not going to talk about the person he is today. We'll talk about the person he was back then. He was a big geek, and he understood the X-Men and a way to make this team work. I mean, wow. And once again, X-Men is my favorite Marvel property. My son is named Logan, so I'm kind of biased, but even I am a critic. I'm a critic. And if they didn't get it right, I would have been very disappointed, like watching the Spawn film, because I was a big fan of Spawn, which Charlie and I saw. We were used to getting disappointed on screen.
Right.
But I would say a big influence of this movie was The Matrix. The Matrix came out, showed what you could do with special effects, bullet time, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what enabled them to go, okay, let's just go all in with black leather instead of yellow costumes. Let's go and make Wolverine kind of the main thrust of the story. We're going to play around with the generations of the X-Men. We're not going to focus on like the original cast. We're going to kind of mix it up. Where instead of Kitty Pryde being like Wolverine's person he protects, it's going to be Rogue instead, which obviously is a flim-flam. And
you said Rogue instead, and it made me think it was Joe Rogan. So
yes,
Wolverine's
Joe Rogan instead. Yes. But yeah, so they kind of, I think, took a right direction to say, let's focus on one character, make it the heart of the story, but also have another character that people could relate to. And I think that's why this worked, because even though there were other characters, they were kind of peripheral, not necessarily the focus.
Right, and again, as you said, you did the big switcheroo, which I don't remember if I figured out what the flim flam was until it happened. Because you thought, Xavier, who was played by Captain Picard himself, Sir Patrick Stewart, leaves Logan, who is of course Hugh Jackman, very famous, and returns.
Which, well, at the time, an
Yeah.
unknown. We were supposed to have another. I remember the casting,
Doug Ray Scott was supposed to be Wolverine.
Yeah, who I think he ended up being in like a Mission Impossible film.
Mission Impossible 2, yeah.
Yeah, and quite honestly, it was a bunch of, Ian McKellen was really, he hadn't done the Lord of the Rings yet, so people really didn't know him. Patrick Stewart was the big name. Halle Berry was kind of coming off, Boomerang, maybe? I don't think she had a big film before then.
Was that before? This was before the what was the movie where she flashed her boobs?
Because that was I remember that movie and that was with Hugh Jackman.
He was a reluctant computer hacker.
Yeah,
and Anna Paquin was a child actress before that. She was in the piano or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. James Marsden. I can't even remember what he did before then.
He was in Disturbing Behavior with.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then Famke Janssen. Is this after GoldenEye when she made her first opinion?
Yes,
as Xenia Onatop or whatever.
Yeah,
on the top.
What is interesting is that Famke Janssen and Patrick Stewart were in an episode of TNG together, which I'm watching for our current crop for our next episode of the show.
Okay.
That's kind of weird. But that was in 1992, so that was years before this.
Since we're on it, we might as well talk about the cast. So once again, Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, kind of the biggest name, which is great. Hugh Jackman as Logan, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, James Marsden as Cyclops, Halle Berry as Storm, Anna Paquin as Rogue, Tyler Mane, a former wrestler and played a big guy, Sabretooth, Ray Park as Toad, coming off of The Phantom Menace.
He gets to actually use his own voice because
that's right.
Darth Maul was completely overdubbed by Peter Serafinowicz.
So weird. An
actor that you see in a lot of other stuff.
Exactly.
Rebecca Romaine. So number one from Strange New Worlds is Mystique. The great Bruce Davidson was Senator Kelly. I love it how there's so many call-outs in the movie. You actually hear somebody in the background say, "We love you, Senator Kelly." Outside of Trump lovers, does anybody else scream that they love politicians?
Nobody loves a politician. Maybe Obama. Maybe Obama. Maybe the other one.
And we get into some lower people that nobody cares about, so we'll kind of skip out.
And Henry Gyrich, I totally forgot that's who it was.
Right.
He died.
He died. It was mauled by a bear. You hear it TV voiceover.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of other unknowns. So there we go. So
this was filmed in Canada, so you get a lot of those filmed in Canada.
A lot of unknowns, though. A lot of people that really didn't pay a lot, and so you didn't look at them and go, "Oh, I know you from what?" It was essentially and I think that was part of the thing, was basically to have these characters established because of their character, not because of the actor playing them.
Exactly. Gotcha. But this kicked off a dynasty, as you said, from 2000 to really all the way up to, you have it here through pretty much through the MCU of films that did some relatively successful. Not most of them were not great. But this was the Lionsgate Artisan Entertainment and Columbia Pictures. Fox.
Until we got our first official MCU Marvel film, which started with Iron Man in the year 2008.
Oh God, the Punisher Warzone.
That was the Punisher Warzone was like the last unofficial Marvel thing.
Yeah, the big death battle. So,
in 2008.
Anyway, so shall we walk through it?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So we kick off in a concentration camp during World War II. We are seeing that, and Todd has left. Bye, Todd. I'm glad you're. Oh, thanks for coming back. Oh, there we go. Na 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 na. You can't hear me. Na 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 na.
Quiet, human. I'm trying to control the mutant power and magnets.
There you go. But yes, you see a young Magneto being separated from his parents in the concentration camp and exhibiting some of his powers. Then we flash forward to present day, where we have a young woman in Mississippi describing a trip to Alaska she wants to take for no reason, as Todd mentions, making out with her boyfriend, and it sends him into a coma, and she flips out and runs away from home. Then we are introduced to Jean Grey and Professor Xavier, and then subsequently Magneto as an adult in a Senate hearing where they're arguing for the rights of mutants, or the first two are, against the beloved Senator Kelly. We love you, Senator Kelly. And this sparks off the plot of the film. You got some great notes that I had to add to. Are you putting your headphones back in, or are you just reading?
Well, I've got my headphones on. I can hear you. They're underneath.
Are you sure? Oh, there you go.
It fits.
All right. So
Magneto needs no headphones.
I know. Are you using the magnetism? To just
I am. The
Yes,
magnetism of your voice is coming through the internets.
Oh my God. So anyway,
by the way, folks, if you're listening to me now, watch YouTube. I'm wearing a Magneto helmet. Don't act like, why is Todd being weird? It's the helmet. It's not me. I've been taken over.
So listen to the show for a decade. They're not worried about why either one of us is weird. But yes, Rogue meets Wolverine up in Alaska, and then the pair of them get assaulted by Sabretooth, Tyler Mane the wrestler, and they end up back in upstate New York, which is still Vancouver, at the X Mansion. I think it's the Bradley Mansion, the one you always see in stuff in Vancouver.
Yeah, it's probably also Downton Abbey. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So yes, exactly. And in this, we develop through the line of the film, and we find out Magneto is not after Wolverine. He's actually after Rogue because he wants to steal her powers. And he has this machine where he can, for some reason, broadcast out a ray that will turn normal people into mutants, and he either knows or doesn't know that it will kill them when it does it. I don't know. I never really figured out if he really knew.
So this was a weird plot point. So Magneto, who is not like a scientist by any means, he's a dude that can bend metal.
But he's not a scientist, but he plays one in his tool shed.
Apparently he found plans to use his magnetic ability to turn people, to basically give people the mutant gene.
Here, this will be your freeze for the YouTube.
I'm making that voice. It didn't make a lot of sense, and the whole thought was so we're kind of getting ahead to where this is all going, but essentially Magneto feels like because humans are dumb, and the only
way that they can get undumb is to become mutants.
Well, basically they won't kill themselves because they'll all be mutants.
Right.
Like, has he met humans? They'll just kill those people that become mutants,
right?
And just get more regular humans.
He should have watched the Days of Future Past before this, even though it would happen in the future. But
and the movie hadn't come out yet. No, he doesn't have the ability to watch future movies. Charlie, sorry.
It's too bad. Really, but he's Magneto. He can't.
Do they have X-Men movies in the X-Men movies?
Oh, like in Spaceballs?
Yes.
They have all the Mel Brooks movies. We're in now. There you go. When will it be later? Soon. So we did get some cameos of characters that actually become important in later films, but played by different actors. We get Kitty Pryde, who is, of course, Shadowcat, is not Elliot Page, who was, what the hell did Elliot Page used to be known as? Ellen Page. There you go. It was Ellen Page when she was in these films. She was Ellen Page. Pyro, who we are now also getting a cameo in Deadpool Wolverine, was a different dude. He was not called Pyro, but he was called by his first name, John. And then we see Jubilee, played by a different actress. But I feel like that was in the cutscenes, or maybe it was just she was unnamed in the background.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been another version of Jubilee. Well, maybe we saw Jubilee in the second class era.
Jubilee was in the second class era, yeah, but not necessarily in this run.
So. And not the same actress.
Yeah. So in the whole train station deal, Cyclops always needs to have a backup pair of glasses. It's kind of weird that when Toad snatches away his glasses, he just blasts his eye. He doesn't have a backup pair of glasses. Kind of, and
weird. He doesn't have like a pair that's like just like low profile. He's got to wear the big ass, like, I'm wearing this whole thing. Like, he needs like the Oakleys, because in the comics even he had just regular glasses with ruby inserts, is what they said.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard to be undercover.
And as he got older, they became progressives because
exactly, yeah, they changed with the light. He doesn't need sunglasses; he's got ruby lenses.
Gotcha. We did see the fact that the Ninja Turtles got into us because there was an ooze that poisoned Professor X.
Mystique just broke into the X Mansion, inserted some weird green ooze, and it poisoned Professor X, and then Jean Grey cured it.
Right.
I don't know.
Why not? Well, she is the science person. So, you did note, and this happened in the Liberty Island scene, that Toad, who is Ray Park, who just leaps and shit, is that he stomps people into the ground like Mario Brothers, like the little
Like
toadstools.
it's like piles of bones and flesh
Yeah,
just destroyed the bottom.
squish. Right. And so, yes, you mentioned that. Yeah, the plot to turn world leaders into mutants makes absolutely no sense. You don't really know what he was trying to accomplish because it wouldn't accomplish anything. But yes, this where everybody loves black leather, and this became the gold standard, certainly for the Fox films. But I would say to this day, leather rules all over. We had a great one. It was a 1-2 punch with Wolverine because he pops his claws up and down, doing the middle claws, middle
Which is
finger.
great because it became
Right.
like Cyclops and he obviously had a
They get their loggerheads.
they had their
Yeah.
loggerheads, so it became like kind of a joke. And one of my favorite lines is they Sabretooth, or basically Mystique, pretends to be Wolverine. They're fighting, and Wolverine finally supposedly
Right.
kills Mystique,
But then he comes around a corner and they're like, "How do we know it's really you?"
and he calls him
And
because you're
he
a
says-
dick.
He says, "You're a dick."
Yeah,
And
which is great.
God goes, "Okay."
But when he attacks Mystique and he uses the claws and cuts off her claws,
Right.
is it like fingers on the ground? What is it? What is the stuff he cut off?
What happens to that? Is it like, in Star Trek where it's Odo, and if something gets chopped off, it just turns into goo again?
I mean,
or
it's
like the Terminator, in T2, it just goes back.
yeah.
up
I
and
mean, I don't think
out.
it's just something that just like is goo and ooze. It's
Right.
it's her body that transforms.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. So
wouldn't
yeah,
she
why
like
was-
be missing fingers or something? I don't know.
I mean, and when she gets stabbed later on, and then you see, in the end of the film, she manages to transform into a guard who looks like she's injured. That's how she escapes. But yeah, she ends up being just fine. But yeah, the Toad line that you refer to is when Toad and Storm are having their final blurs, and then what is Storm's line about Toad? What did she say?
Yes. You know what's funny about what happens to toads when they're hit by by lightning? The same thing as everything else.
I mean, you would think like a 4-year-old could tell a better punchline than that. That was bad.
That's like a 4-year-old trying to tell a joke, and I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
and you may like smile at that, but not when it's professional writers.
Exactly. So, let's see here. Yeah, we don't know what happens to Sabretooth or Toad. They are never heard from again. So in the end of the film, obviously the good guys prevail, and Magneto is captured, and he ends up in a prison and this obviously plays a factor in the next film as well, because he's got to get out of prison. But his outfit and everything that comes in contact with this the plastic prison, not only there's no metal in there, but it also dampens his ability to project outside of it. And so Charles comes and visits him in a completely plastic wheelchair. He must be wearing a cool plastic belt, which of course is what they always did in the 80s, like a see-through belt.
It's all Velcro.
It does, and his whole outfit must be that way. But they're playing on a chessboard where the pieces are plastic, so they're still friends. Which is, you know what? It's all about friendship.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell how because there's a bridge that's plastic and almost like it reminds me of like E.T. when it's like the plastic thing that goes to connect. And I'm like, but it's getting drawn back. I'm like, I don't think plastic actually can be used in machinery. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can come up with a way to run plastic power, but we don't know how that happens. Yeah.
There's this great segment, and there's a kind of a spoof sketch film called the Kentucky Fried Movie. Does it sound in the 70s from the Zucker brothers? And they have something about plastics, and they said without plastics you wouldn't have your artificial leg. Like stuff would disappear, and this woman has a bing, and then she falls over. You wouldn't have the catch on your kitchen sink, and her sink explodes, or those this and that, and a fire starts. So yeah, the same thing. You got to have plastics. That's what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
I guess. Microplastics, we all breathe them. It's very true.
Yeah. One last point, and I don't know if you mentioned this already, but Sabretooth.
Yes.
So we get Sabretooth in a future film played by Liev Schreiber. We get this version of Sabretooth, Tyler Mane, who's just a big dude who we don't think they have any, like he and Wolverine have any type of past. So that's like the only thing I feel like is just an oddity, because they went back to the character, but it's completely different. So I am hoping, Charlie, that this, like, what we get out of the Deadpool and Wolverine film is just taking all of the Fox weirdness and it's addressed with people who are in those films.
Well, they had Tyler Mane back, but it's funny because he's not really aged well. It looks like he's put on a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And his hair is very dark. So that could be because a lot of the characters, even that you see in this, get cameos in that scene that we've seen in the trailer where it's Ant-Man's skull is Cassandra Cain is her name, right? The main villain in this film.
It is Cassandra Nova. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, I love, if I was to give this film a rating of, 10 claws out, 1 to 10 big old adamantium claws, I love this film. Not only for the ridiculous plot points that you mentioned, but the fact that this just broke everything wide open. Yes, it wasn't the first Marvel comic film, but it's the one that I will always remember the most fondly. And I'm not even an X-Men guy like you, really this gave us the first Spider-Man film, which, that one wasn't so bad either. But yes, and everything that followed, and it gave birth to the MCU and even helped DC out for a little while. So this was I would definitely put this one, probably for the sake of member berries, at like an 8 out of 10 claws myself.
Yeah, I actually don't think the special effects were that bad. I think they were used well, sparingly.
Yeah.
I think they worked pretty well. And I think they got the heart of what X-Men is, even though some things were kind of clunky. But I think the actors were all in on it. The lines weren't, except for a couple lines that were a little bit goofy, where I thought the writing was pretty good. And yes, the plot was so dumb, it doesn't make sense. But beyond that, I think it really brought the world of the X-Men alive. And in that time, when nobody had done that, that's a huge effort. So I'm going to give this film probably an 8.5 out of 10, just because, yes, it's 24 years old now, but it's still watchable. And I'll take that to the bank.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. $300 million worth. Was it 3 or 4 times its budget? Nailed it. Good stuff, and remembered finally. So, well, cool. This was a great foray into the Summer of X. I'm really glad that we picked this one, and we'll be back in our next episode with X2, I believe. X United.
That's right, with special guests. So look forward to that. And if you are interested in being on an episode to cover off one of these X-Men films, let us know. Obviously, we want people that can talk about their love of it in a very fun, entertaining fashion, because we like to talk to people that like to talk.
Absolutely. Good deal. And you can do that by reaching us, as I mentioned before, at the Secret Friends Unite mailbag. That would be Secret Friends Unite, all one word, at gmail.com. Drop us a line and let us know what you're thinking. If you'd like to work with us, we'd love to hear from you. Or you can find us on our socials. Todd, where do people find you?
Yeah, they can find me on Threads at Tioxtra, at Secret Friends Unite. And I know there are not DMs yet on those services. You can also drop DMs. My DMs are open on Instagram, and we're basically available with those same handles. Still on Twitter, which our DMs are open, at Tioxtra and at Secret Friends U.
People can even visit us on Facebook at those, even though we don't do a lot of content there. You can't reach us that way.
But we got a group that's good, and they will talk with us. Yeah.
We will absolutely. And you can find me. I'm also on Instagram and on Threads. I'm the C3 TheCeeThree. And I do spend a heck of a lot of time at our Secret Friends Unite Discord, the most funnest Discord in the whole wide world. Don't look it up, but we do have a lot of fun. And that Discord is open to all. So we would love to have you along. My wife and I just started a new kind of fun Discord, and something that's going to eventually turn into a business. Based around Star Trek fans here in Michigan, United Trekkers of Michigan. So if you're a Trek fan within the sound of my voice in the Mitten State, give me a ding. We'd love to have you on this group. It's just about discussion. There's no other structure or club or anything. It's just Trekkers having fun. So yeah, we'd love to have you. Well, with that, I will bid everyone a fair good night. Thank you for joining us. Tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Hey, bub, give me my beer.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.